When you have debates about culture and financial performance, normally it's even difficult to convince most executives that who think that these things are mutually exclusive, right? So you have people who believe these are mutually exclusive, that you cannot get culture right and have financial performance. And then even those who admit say, yeah, but even if there's a correlation, is it a causal, is it really, surely it's not. Maybe this is a coincidence.
Yes.
In the last roadshow that we've just came on, the CEO of PEP says, we have a sustainable performance because of culture.
Wow.
It is because, it's not because of, because they've seen that when they change this, when you start treating people with dignity and respect, when you start creating a culture where people are not nervous, when you give people a bit of autonomy, they go beyond the call of duty, because everyone wants to do, they want you to give them guardrails, but they want to be able to dance and create.
It's possible for someone that has a normal job,
Yes.
that is paid well,
Yes.
to leave their job and say, I want to just go and speak.
Yeah.
Just make the math work for me.
It's possible, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And people, when I say this, they're like, Siphiwe, they don't want to squeeze it in. They don't want to squeeze us in this thing. And for me, it was interesting because I tried this thing a few times. So I left in 2007 to try and do it, and it just didn't work.
What does that mean?
So it was really bad. So when I left initially, the model that I wanted to have was to speak and to train, and I was almost like a subcontractor of a subcontractor. So it's just like that guy you call when you've run out of facilitators and so on, and I just didn't have any business.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mandaj Flaro, and on today's episode of the SuperLead podcast series, we are joined by Siphiwe Moyo, who is an executive director of the Organisational Behaviour Institute, an organization dedicated to building better workplaces. He's also a founder and CEO of the Paradigm People Solution, partnering with leading African companies to strengthen culture and human performance. And in this episode, we unpack insights from his latest book, Building Better Workplaces. Siphiwe, welcome to SuperLead Podcast.
Thank you, Manda. Thanks for having me, man.
Man, it's been, we should have done this work like long time ago.
I know.
This is, it feels like we'll take this podcast and we kind of just bring all the work we should have done together in the last 4 or 5 years.
Sounds like a great plan.
Good. So now, so you have written a number of books, and one is this one called Building Better Workplaces. Yes. So today we're gonna unpack the book. We won't be able to cover everything because of time.
Sure.
But before we get to the book, I want to know the author.
Sure.
So tell me about Siphiwe from as early as possible and trekking to now, to this global speaker, leadership guru.
Sure.
Of our
No,
time.
that sounds good. So I'm born and bred in Soweto, and Soweto is where I trace my formative years. And for me, that was a very interesting space, because I think when you grow up in Soweto, there's a lot of things that gents are just expected to know. Firstly, football, but also just fixing stuff, right?
Yes.
So you're just expected to be a boy fixing things around, and I was bad at all those things, right?
Bad at soccer, bad with your hands as well.
but I think soccer was decent. I was decent, but I was bad with my hands.
Yeah.
And so I then moved to Orange Farm, also in the south of Johannesburg, and I always trace my home to Orange Farm a little bit more, because that's the place where the other things that I was kind of good at, people started being curious about other things other than
fixing
working
and
with your
soccer.
hands. So I kind of felt seen, you know.
Okay.
So every time I talk about my background, I talk about Orange Farm, and then people in Soweto call me out all the time. Like, dude, what are you talking about? But I think Orange Farm had a very big impact in my life. So from Soweto to Orange Farm, studied also around the Val, HR and organizational behavior, then went to corporate, also in the HR space, OD space. Left corporate about, what is it now? Probably 11 years ago.
Sure.
Um,
So what does it mean you went to corporate? Some details there.
Yeah, so I think in corporate, so I'd studied HR and organizational behavior, but I've never really been a generalist HR. So I'm one of those people who kind of.
First, sorry. But why HR? Why pick HR?
It's interesting because at that time I had a forced gap year. It's one of those gap years where you just didn't have money to register. so in certain circles, I'm like, I had a gap year. So I have this nice gap year, but it helps you to think, right? So I go to, there's a place called Funda Center in Soweto where you can have conversations about career and stuff. And at that time, the career guidance is quite limited. So you get there and they ask you a few questions. I'm like, I think I like people. They're like, okay, that's HR.
Do it. Just like that. I like
know
people.
what
Do HR.
Do HR. Wow. I don't even know what this thing is. So I get into HR space, but I think I'm not lost, right? So in varsity, I'm in this HR space. I'm having a lot of fun, but I realize in the HR space, there is the learning piece, and then there's the OD piece. The way I realize
And what is OD again for some of us?
Yeah, so organizational development is all the stuff around building better workplaces, to be honest. It's about understanding work relationships, why people do the things they do at work. So it's almost like if you imagine personal relationships just at the workplace.
Okay.
What moves people? Why do people do the things they do?
Sure.
What's the science of motivation and so on? Because I just think many of us think the only way to get people to do their best work is to pay them. But that thing doesn't last.
Sure.
Because we adjust very quickly to our pay increases, very quickly. Because when you get a pay, you get a spike in your happiness and in your motivation, but it dwindles down.
Sure.
So people who study OD try to figure out what are the other things that you can do to sustain people's motivation, to sustain team dynamics and so on.
So while you're at it, so Rulani, he said, we don't have to pay you.
Amen. Surely you are moved by other things.
You are moved by other things and motivation and so I think the team has taken note of this one. We all need to study OD at this stage. Okay, good.
So at varsity, the way I start realizing this is that people start having these group works where you have to present in front. And many of my classmates hate it. They sweat. They want to
we all hate
die. And then I'm realizing that even though I'm reluctant to do this, but I'm quite good at it. And then by the time I'm doing internship, so I did an internship with a company called Mining Qualifications Authority. It's a CETA.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a generic HR qualification. But I've started figuring out that I think although the HR value chain is a lot, I'm passionate about the learning piece. I'm passionate about the OD piece. Then I kind of zone in those things in my corporate career. So I go mining, and then I go manufacturing. I ran the textile mills was when I had my first formal job after internship, and then I worked at the Steel and Engineering Industries Federation of South Africa. So I went manufacturing. Then I settled in banking. I think my most consistent stint was in the banks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were doing organizational.
Yeah. So I was doing mostly learning and OD. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And then what possessed you to leave corporate?
It's such an interesting thing because one of the things that happens is, so I get a little bit senior. So I was mostly I was facilitating full time in corporate. And then when you get senior, you stop facilitating. Now, now you have to manage people to do what you love. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So now I remember my team.
You can say more.
My team is like, we'll be in Northern Cape. We'll be facilitating. Please approve our claims. That's what I should be doing. But the structure in corporate is that now obviously you have to think strategy, you have to operationalize whatever. I'm thinking, okay, I need to find ways to still do this stuff, but it doesn't look like it will be in corporate because I also love this seniority and the money associated with it.
No. Let's not come back to
no
money.
money.
No money. Work, motivation, different things.
Yeah.
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Yes.
Chapter 11. So now I need to try and carve ways to make sure I still do the facilitation, being in front of people and so on. That's mainly why I left corporate. And I think sometimes people congratulate me a little bit too much on, so they say, well done on leaving the bad corporate way. And for me, it wasn't bad, to be honest. For me, I was having the most fun. It's just that the focus was a little bit different, and I still wanted to do a little bit, be in front of the people rather than enabling the team to be in front.
Right. So this problem, do you still continue to facilitate, or do you don't manage facilitators in your current space?
In my current space, I still facilitate, I still manage facilitators, but then I can choose, right?
Okay.
I can choose which things I want to do, and which things I can delegate. It's a weird thing because, and I think you've probably have had this problem where client relationships at some point, if you start with them and you are facilitating, introducing someone else later is tricky. So there are certain projects where I'm not even there, at the beginning, but there are those that I can still do. And for me, it says a lot about just how we design jobs, especially in corporate. So you find, I remember we were grappling with this book, The Leadership Pipeline, at that time. Beautiful book. And we were thinking about, how we set people up for success in corporate. That this idea that for someone to be senior and paid more, they must start leading people. There are people who don't want to lead people. There are people who are terrible at it. But because the way it's designed is that there's a link between seniority and managing people. I've been thinking about that a lot because of the same reason that at that time, the only thing that could have made me stay was for me to still do the facilitation thing, which is absolutely fascinating. But I still do it.
Lovely. No, so I remember for me in my current work, because I love the consulting, the engaging with the clients, and there was a time when, I was largely managing the team that was doing the work, and then I could just feel the energy just drained. And then I had to just readjust a few things and kind of do the facilitation and the client engagements. It's very easy to start managing the things you love to do rather than to do the things that you like to do.
And there are just too many people who are maybe not even aware that sometimes you get into something for this particular reason, but you kind of know that if you are a leader, for example, and there are certain things that you must do as a leader anyway. You must set the strategy, you must operationalize. But if you no longer do the client interactions that
yes, that's why I wanted to do this work. It was every now and again I feel my energy where I go, now I'm doing performance management and increases and admin and proposals. I want to be there doing the client work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're doing all that work all because they've got better motivation.
I'm loving this theme.
Right. So you've been doing this. You left corporate you've been out for 11 years.
Sure.
And when you left, what did you say you were going to do?
Yeah. So when I left, I went to speak and do some leadership development stuff and also a bit of teaching. So I've done a bit of teaching, and so you realize that most of that stuff was just front on the front line. A bit of teaching, which was really, really, really nice. Some speaking in the global stages and so on.
So let's take one at a time. Tell me about speaking. So it's possible for someone that has a normal job that is paid well to leave their job and say, I want to just go and speak. Make the math work for me.
It's possible, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And people, when I say this, they're like, Siphiwe, they don't want to squeeze it in. They don't want to squeeze us in this thing. And for me, it was interesting because I tried this thing a few times. So I left in 2007 to try and do it, and it just didn't work.
What does that mean?
So it was really bad. So when I left initially, the model that I wanted to have was to speak and to train, and I was almost like a subcontractor of a subcontractor. It's just like that guy you call when we've run out of facilitators and so on. And I just didn't have any business.
Sure.
And the conferences were just few and far in between. In 2013, I leave again, and it's slightly better because now.
Also, you leave, you come
and I
back,
went
to
work.
corporate.
I went back to corporate.
Sure.
No problems at all. For me,
And how did you feel?
it felt like a failure. It
Sure.
felt like, oh my goodness, this is bad. I've failed at this thing. But I think for me, what was a priority is that I can't just be hungry now. I have a family, and I had just gotten married. That was one of the. I get married in February 2007.
Yeah.
And then later I have this vision of some entrepreneurial whatever.
Marriage inspired entrepreneurial
We're
vision.
gonna do this thing. I'm pitching this to my wife, and she says, "Okay, nice." But at that time, this thing is just not working, and I'm hiding that it's not working.
Sure.
I wake up in the morning, I wear a tie, and I go hustling. Because also my wife just didn't love the idea of leaving me while still in bed. I think there's something psychologically that it wasn't. So I would wake up before her, wear a tie, and go to work. But now money is not coming in. We're under pressure. They're about to take our house. I made some calls. I need to come back to work. And luckily, I found something nice and quick. But that helped my exit plan later, because now I realize, okay, this thing is never as quickly as I thought it would be.
I see.
So now, I mean, I remember having a document that I still want to do this, but I'm going to have a quick exit plan, reduce debt, because that's something that is putting me under pressure.
Excellent.
Reduce debt, network a little bit, find some clients. And now I remember reading something that you should actually leave to go run something, not to start.
That's a beautiful one.
So I read that, and my next exit was based on that, and it has been sustainable.
And that was 2013.
2013, I left.
Right. So you're leaving to say you're going to go speak.
Yeah.
So
let me explain. This speaking thing it's an interesting one, because when you realize there are actually people who speak for a living.
Yeah.
It sounds so romantic, but none of us actually do speaking only, because it's just not sustainable. It's a seasonal thing. So there are certain periods where there are a lot of conferences.
Around this year end.
This time, for example, September, October, November is just a peak. February again. But obviously you can't sustain a business knowing that. But there are people who literally are professional speakers. You can set up yourself nicely and become a speaker. It's just we have these other things. Many people have coaching, training, consulting to be able to sustain it. But there is a proper conferencing circuit in South Africa. There are people who are called professional conference organizers. All they do is to organize conferences and so on. And it works. It's just it's not really something that every person can sustain. You probably have about 10% of people who say they speak full time actually can sustain a living out of speaking. All of us just have other things that we sustain, but it's a really, really cool thing that exists.
Excellent. So I've heard a lot of people also talk to me about, hey, they want to be speakers.
Yes.
Where do they start? And how do they pick the area to speak in?
Yeah.
And how, maybe one third one on this layering is, when you started, did you have one topic to speak about? Did you keep the same topic, or have you sort of changed?
I think for me that's a great question. So you get a lot of pressure when you start, because when you start, this idea that you must know your signature, what you study, what you're passionate about, it really never works in the beginning, because actually it's the market that will tell you what they want you for. So initially you really try and define, and you try and zone in into something. So for example, when I left speaking, I had written a book called Bulls and Bears, Life Lessons from the Market, right? And for me, I thought it was a real metaphor. It was proper. It was clear that it was about life lessons, but everybody misunderstood.
For stock market?
Yeah, they called me for financial whatever. I was like, goodness, what a failure. wasn't this thing really nice, a nice metaphor? But and now I had a credibility gap. So everybody knows I did HROD in corporate,
now
but
you're
now I'm like,
doing
markets,
stocks.
what are they doing? So I really, really battled until I had to pull that book off and say, don't even sell it anywhere, remove that thing because you're just misunderstood. And then
Wait,
when
what was the book about?
the book was really lovely. So it was motivational stuff. That book was just classic motivation, and I really thought it was amazing. So I would do things like, I had lessons like, if you just look at the stock markets, you will realize that not all trends eventually end.
Yes.
Right? There is no boom that lasts forever. There's no bear that lasts forever.
Yes.
Whatever you're going through, this too shall pass. And I'm thinking this thing is powerful. I'm thinking this thing is powerful. But people are like, it's not working. And for me, I thought the framework was really nice. And so I traced all these things from the market. So I really liked markets, but and I would have all these things that are derived from.
Yeah, and
you
then
know?
you have
and
a
then there's a
punchline.
punchline there. Like people are like, nah, dude, this thing does not work.
Okay.
Which also just makes me realize that people, especially clients and whatever, they want you to solve something. And I can tell any speaker who's looking forward to speak. They want you to solve something, not have rhymes and, you know, even if you package something in a catchy way, but they want to know there's depth behind that, you know. And for me, there is something very interesting about simplifying something is not the same as saying something that is simple.
Sure.
And speakers who simplify will have a sustainable career other than saying something simple. So, for example, there's a quote that speakers love, saying something like, setbacks are a whatever for a comeback.
Yes, yes,
know,
yes.
That, when you think about that statement, it's a proper reframe. And there's science sitting behind it that you can reframe your mind. When you look at adversity, the way you think about adversity, you can reframe. So you are simplifying something, but there's depth. But I think the mistake I was making with that book, that thing was really not based on something. It was catchy lines. It was really nice, but it just didn't land.
But this is a powerful one. Hey, like, clients are wanting to solve something.
They want to solve.
They're not into just the rhymes and and
clients are not trying to book speakers. If they could, they wouldn't book speakers at all. And all they're hoping is, we have an engagement problem, we have a culture problem, we have an innovation problem, and anyone who comes to speak, if they can help us solve that, then that person can speak and even consult. And I think that was the mistake I was making. And if there's anyone who's thinking of speaking, just think about, what is the problem that you're trying to solve, as opposed to what you speak about.
Oh, excellent.
And if you do that, really this idea of what do you speak about, you get a little bit more clarity when you zone in. Yes, it's going to take you a while to kind of zone in on your specialty, but at least if you think problem rather than a talk, you'll probably have, you'll sustain it.
Studying. So you wanted to do speaking, and then you wanted to do some audio work. What does that mean?
So that one for me is around a lot of team effectiveness stuff. So if you just think about any relationships, there'll always be conflict. There's always going to be one person in the team feels like I'm working more than the others. And so there's always going to be these dynamics. And so we do team effectiveness to have conversations. Excellent. And you realize that most people are just not having proper conversations around team dynamics. You find most teams will either be in two extremes. So you'll find teams that have artificial harmony. Everybody's laughing, we're doing well. But you know there's stuff that they're not saying. On the other extreme, you have people who have like personalized feedback. Like it's ruthless, it's brutal. And I think the truth is to facilitate a conversation where we can say, we didn't perform well here, this is what we improve. So we facilitate some of that. Some culture work in there around improving culture and so on. But that's the entire OD space is around just building better workplaces.
Excellent. What is culture work?
So culture work means what is the culture that we have in the organization, and is that culture enabling us to perform, right? So if you just think about, most organizations have started figuring out that this culture thing is important. And I think it took a while for people to say, "Oh, it looks like this culture work." Initially, they're like, this is kumbaya stuff. Let's just focus on strategy.
Yeah.
But I think they're starting to realize that you can get the best out of people by creating a great culture.
Sure.
But even there, we have two extremes. We have people who start having a culture that no longer relies on performance. So it just looks like a home. And they use words like, in our organization, it's a home. And I'm like, that's a terrible metaphor. It's very bad. Because I don't know about you. At home, we have unconditional love. We love you regardless of your stuff. But work, the love at work is really conditional. So you must still perform. Maybe an analogy of a sports team is much better. That we can create, yes, we can create a great work culture, but we still want performance.
Sure.
So for people to work around what is that kind of culture we want, it is high. Is it high performance plus high care?
Sure.
Or is it gonna be low performance, more psychological failure, psychological safety, where everybody feels warm and fuzzy, but we're not performing? Or you're gonna have culture that is looking outwards. Maybe at the moment there is no safety, but we are performing. So, but the best is where you can just balance that high care plus high performance. So that's the quadrant we're trying to create with this culture work. And what are the things and levers we can pull to get there?
Sure. Lovely. Before we transition to the book, maybe one last question is,
Sure.
doesn't this work feel like, it's the soft stuff?
Yes.
And yet leaders are like, just stop with all of this stuff. Just do your work. Give me the numbers. You worked at the mines. Let's get the ore. Let's get the tons out. Do we need all of these things? Perhaps at this juncture, you kind of look directly into the camera and just kind of build a case for the soft stuff.
So that's interesting, because I just came out in October. I had a roadshow with a very familiar organization to many people, PEP. So we went multi-city, multi-country roadshow, and this for me is very important. And I'll tell you a quick case study. So 1998, PEP goes through some really, really tough times. The financial performance. 1998.
I wonder who was born
No one is like, when was that? The moment you mention 90, you're like,
I just lose half my stuff.
So this organization is 60 years old, right? And it had been flourishing up until 1998. And they had serious financial problems. They're about to be bankrupt at that time. And then they have an incoming CEO who's looking at this. He's not a retailer. Takes a bit of time, and he says, the reason we're not performing is that our culture is terrible.
Sure.
And everybody is rolling their eyes like, what? The reason we're not performing is because of culture. That's not true. He says, give me a chance. As young people say, let me cook. Give me a chance. And then they appoint him. He changes a few things. He's like, firstly, let's drop this, say this. Let's go first name base.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, South Africa obviously had come out of a very difficult period. There's a lot of stiffness in the culture. The managers are brutal. They introduce very interesting things like, every time we meet each other now, we're going to high-five each other. Let's have cultural symbols. And everybody's like, They implement this culture.
Okay.
And it says, just give me a chance. And then after that, for the past, probably 30 years, PEP is probably one of the best companies we have in our country. In the last 10 years, in fact, this year, it had the best financial performance in the last 10 years. No way. And this is in the context of our economy that is just not doing well.
Yes.
And so when you have debates about culture and financial performance, normally it's even difficult to convince most executives who think that these things are mutually exclusive, right? So you have people who believe these are mutually exclusive, that you cannot get culture right and have financial performance. And then even those who admit say, but even if there's a correlation, is it a causal? Is it really? Surely it's not. Maybe this is a coincidence.
Yes.
In the last roadshow that we've just came on, the CEO of PEP says, we have a sustainable performance because of culture.
Wow.
It is because. It's not because of... Because they've seen that when they change this, when you start treating people with dignity and respect, when you start creating a culture where people are not nervous, when you give people a bit of autonomy, they go beyond the call of duty, because everyone wants to do, they want you to give them guardrails, but they want to be able to dance and create. If you have professionals here, there are things that you just don't know. They know better. All they want is a bit of direction, and they dance in. So when you've done those things, in fact, culture gives you that performance. So I think the way we've framed culture as if it's this thing that is cuddly, that is kumbaya, is not the best frame. In fact, culture gives you the outcomes that you want. Excellent. It's the profitability we want. It's the productivity we want. Culture helps you get those things. It's not some isolated stuff. It's not a campaign that you do. It's not a let's go play football. It's not a
let's do blindfolded.
Let's do blindfold. This thing is proper stuff that actually gives you the performance you want.
Oh wow! Right. I think I feel like clapping on that one. So now you wrote a book, and I imagine, how many have you written again now?
5.
Okay, including the one we
no, exclude that one. That's why I had to count. 4 after pulls and pairs.
So you know the process of writing a book is painful.
Yeah,
the question is, why go through all of that? What's happening in our world today that called this book out?
Yeah, I just think the state of the workplace is not great. People who study this kind of stuff, which you are very familiar with, Gallup tells us that only about 23% of people in the workplace are engaged. And that word, people, that word maybe does not mean much to people, but that means only 23% of the people in your workplace gives us what we call affective commitment. In other words, they give you their emotional engagement, they give you their cognitive engagement, and they give you their psychological engagement. When they're at work, they really are at work. Some are not. And when you think about that state, you realize that we are therefore losing productivity. Many people, in fact, have given up on the idea that work could be fun, work could be meaningful. And so when you have that state, I feel like you need an intervention that says work does not have to be a drag. An intervention that says work does not have to be this thing that you enjoy the whole week so that you can enjoy the weekend. And I think when you just look at how people feel on Friday, not even at 4, at 1 p.m., the way they're just looking forward to a Saturday tells me that it's because there is no fulfillment and meaning during the week. And I think we have to do something about this. We'll all love weekends, but at the moment, the way people are looking forward, you can tell they're not having meaningful work. So we need an intervention. We need to convince people that the workplace can be a place where you can unleash your own passions, where you can use your own skills and so on. And hence this idea that we need leaders to know what can we do to create that better workplace, but also team members to know what they can do as well to create this better workplace. Sure.
Wow. No. Okay, now you needed to write a big volume then.
Yes.
And thank you for creating that burning platform.
Sure.
So now, how do we do that? In the book, you sort of talk about the responsibilities for leaders and the responsibilities for team members.
Yes.
Maybe there were a few, I think, across for both. Maybe you pick top 3 or 4 that we unpack.
Sure. I think for leaders, it's just the main thing I argue there is that just the understanding of what motivates people. For me, one of the key theories there is a theory by Ryan and Deci, and people who generally roll their eyes when they hear the word theory, I promise this is applicable. And they argue something called self-determination theory, that when you really want someone to really give you your heart, you have to understand what really motivates people. And generally, most human beings, you want to come at work and feel a sense of competence, right? You see that when people feel like they know what they're doing, they're generally happy in that role.
Excellent.
And I see this all the time, man. I remember going to my first spinning class at the gym. You know, when you feel incompetent, you choose You choose the bicycle
At the
as far
man.
as possible. In the corner, you look shy, you look confused, and you just want to shrink yourself, But interestingly, if you stay with that thing,
Yes.
the more competent you are, the
And then
more
the closer you move to
the
the
closer
front.
you get, and then you get these people on the front.
Yes, isn't
Like,
it?
you can tell there's a rhythm, there's flow. You're not sure whether these people are having fun or they're exercising.
That's true.
It's because people want to go to places when they feel competent.
Oh, that's so
right?
good. That is so
And
good.
so leaders must just think, have I created an environment where people can feel competent? How can I help them with skill, with whatever, so that they do that? And so we think about it. Competence is the first one.
Excellent.
The second one is this idea of autonomy. And
Okay.
this, every human being needs a little bit of autonomy.
Right.
They want leaders to tell them what we must do, sell the why as cogent as possible. Sell the why, because also when you connect with the why, it's a little bit better on what you do. And then give me that autonomy to determine the how. And of course, there is also a link between competence and how much autonomy you give someone.
good,
You
good.
can
The more
just
competent, the more
the
autonomy.
more you open up. But once they have autonomy, they just flourish. And then lastly, it's relatedness. It's
So
means
before you go to the
last
third
one.
one, so this autonomy piece and
Yes.
micromanagement,
Yes.
just a word or two there.
yeah. So micromanagement kills motivation.
Sure.
Because when you micromanage people, what you are not realizing is that now we do what you tell us. And because you are one human being, you are also limited to other ideas. So we'll give you what you say. But what you might not be realizing is that the person in your team might know a little bit more than what you are saying. So now they give you this thing and they have nothing else to give. But that's also because you have assumed that people in your team don't know more than
Sure.
Amanda, this is interesting for me because there are certain people you see on Saturday, right? This person might not be a leader during the week, but they are leading church, they are leading a community organization. You look at this person, they are motivated, they have leadership capabilities, and then they come on Monday. Their leader has this much expectation from them, and then they're like, okay, I'll give you this. And then they'll take their brain, their energy somewhere
all
else.
the other places.
So you're not getting discretionary effort. Micromanagement is fine, but you're not going to get more out of it. But there's a dance there between the leader and the manager, because the more you perform as well, the more the leader feels, okay, I can trust this person. So you can realize that there's always a dance between the two. But I think the ultimate state is where you're not micromanaging people, so that it frees you to do your own work as well. The last thing you want is to do work for 8 people.
Yes.
So train, coach, then leave people alone.
Lovely. You had the third one, relatedness.
Relatedness is the idea that every human being also is more happy in places where they feel connected, where they feel they belong. So you want to create positive relationships at work. Also, for their own sake, but also for the ultimate outcomes that we want. Everybody wants to get into their place where they are called by their names. You had not seen one of your team members just now.
Yes.
You say things on camera that happened out. And then when you said, Paul, I haven't seen you in a while, there was a smile. Everybody wants to feel seen. No matter how senior they are. People are like, just give me the money. I don't want I promise you, everyone wants to feel seen. I want to give you an example. I said I used to do more teaching, but I do less now. And so I went to Henley the other day after a while. I had not taught at Henley, and I had to teach a little bit. And I had not been there probably for about a year. And it's in the morning, I'm rushed, I didn't sleep too well, so I'm not feeling that great, right? I'm a bit grumpy and so on. And then I drive in. The security guard sees me, and when he sees me, he's like, Mehlo Madala, which means I have not seen you in a while. And at that time, I'm like, someone noticed. Someone noticed. Now I get into class, I'm creating the best environment. People are having fun.
lovely, man.
But what they don't know is that they're
someone
also
would-
benefiting from the security guard saying
stunning,
Mehlo Madala. So
stunning.
positive relationships matter, seeing people matter.
Sure.
And when you do that, people really, really, perform. So if I were to maybe think about the one thing that leaders, just think about what motivates people.
Sure.
And then maybe the other one is just the idea that,
So on this one,
sure.
So in this environment we're in now, hybrid work or virtual work, in person, what's your latest thinking on this connectedness?
Yeah, I think the main mistake that I think we're making, so most organizations we're working with now are going hybrid, and the thinking is, and some have actually mandated return to office because they just think everybody needs to be in the office, and that makes sense. But I just think the truth there is somewhere in the middle. So every person, if you think about some of your best deep work, you might want to do that alone because there's a creativity. You actually, when you are writing, there's a certain flow you get to after about an hour of writing, and then you realize there's a bit of quality. So you need individual work, but you also need collaboration and so on. And I think the truth is better planning our hybrid so that when we are together in the office, we are actually together in the office. You've seen people who go to the office and then everyone is on Teams.
And then they all drive back.
So just a little bit of planning to say,
very good.
When we're in the office, let's actually focus on the connection, on the collaboration, and so on. And I think that would be very helpful.
Very good. So you were going to the last one. In these 4 pillars that speaks to motivation.
Yeah. So the self-determination theory, I think I was done. But I think if you also understand intrinsic motivation, right? There's a beautiful book wrote by Professor Barry Schwartz. It's literally called Why We Work.
All right.
Why do people actually come to work?
Can we get that one? Okay, good.
And then please read it because it says the money is overrated.
We must bring Siphiwe here every week.
It's like Manda code this one for us. So that's just the science of why human beings want to work and intrinsic motivation. What I really love there is just there's a lot of things we assume about why people get to work that we're not really accurate about. So for example, we think everybody is more self-orientated, and therefore the more you define what's in it for me, the more you're going to get more engagement. But that's not true.
Wow.
So they did this beautiful experiment, and there's a lot of these experiments that are fun for me. So I think Adam Grant and colleagues did this very interesting experience. It's called the task significance study. So there's these young people who used to call
oh yes, I remember.
You remember that study?
Yeah.
They call people to say we wanna get
raising funding for,
funding,
I think, university. Yeah.
And when you get a call from your university saying, "Can you donate?" You're like, "I've already spent a lot of money. I don't want to donate." And so these people, they were struggling with these people, and eventually all they did is to say, "Let's meet the beneficiaries of the funding. Come and have coffee with people who've benefited from your efforts." And the more when they met those people, they doubled their call the next week, and they collected more money. So the why matters more than the what. And generally, human beings, self-interest is not sustainable. Other-centeredness is what actually gives us the ultimate fulfillment.
Excellent.
The other one they ran is when they went to the hospital, they were struggling with compliance with masks, washing hands, and so on in the hospital. And they said, we want people to use masks. We're going to do an experiment. The first message was, please wear a mask and take care of hygiene to protect yourself.
Okay.
They ran that for a while, and they looked at the impact. And then afterwards, they said, please wear masks and sanitize to protect others.
Wow.
And they wanted to see the difference.
Yeah.
And the compliance increased when it said protect others.
Oh, wow, man.
And this is counterintuitive.
Sure.
You think everybody just protect me.
Yes.
But when self-protection actually allows people tune out as opposed to tuning in. So the way we frame messages, it matters to zone in on the why, matters. Every human being wants to know that because I went to work, someone's life is
stunning,
better.
man, stunning.
And so we have to highlight these stories because that's the stuff that gives us fulfillment.
Oh, wow. Good one, good one. What are some of the responsibilities for team members?
Ooh, there are so many.
Yeah, I saw.
There are so many. And for me, this is so important because I've also seen very people-centered leaders swing the pendulum too, because they realize that, my goodness, I am people-centered. I love this stuff that Siphiwe is talking about, the why, the this, the this.
Yes.
But
All the
if
psychological
psychological safety things.
Yeah.
But then when people don't perform, when I realize that people are not coming to the party, I still need to perform. So I end up swinging the pendulum too much and becoming like all those people I always loathe because of this. So sometimes team members must also realize that when you have a good leader, a thoughtful leader, someone who cares and whatever, and that person changes, at some point you must realize we created that monster.
And on this one, I've seen such good humans. Like, you're like, Siphiwe is an amazing human being. But then how his experience at work.
Yes.
You go, what went wrong here?
Yeah. Because there are certain fears. Some leaders have fears that if I become too relational, they won't perform. And sometimes that is trauma. They've seen it before, that I became relational. And some people couldn't understand that, you could be relational and still be able to perform. And so when you have matured team members who understand that at the very least, work is work. This thing called work, at some point, there must be performance. At some point, you must understand that things don't just happen. And nobody owes you a promotion. And those are hard. So for example, that your career is in your hands. That if you have a big team, expecting your manager to carve your career is not the best thing, because your manager actually wants performance. So what you need is to own your career. What you need is to also play nicely with other kids, collaborate. They are going to give you back what you collaborate, what you give out. That you also have a responsibility to create the culture you want. You also have a responsibility to perform and make this person that you report to shine wherever they go. You also have a responsibility to show up well and to communicate better when you're not feeling well, and to also balance that performance and collaboration, because also you don't want to be that star performer who does not regard everybody else. So there are so many responsibilities that team members have to maintain this good relationship that we need in teams. And I think if they don't show up well, if they don't understand that just because someone gives you space, it does not mean they're laissez-faire and you shouldn't perform. And if we manage that better, we'll have better workplaces.
Lovely. On this last one of the star performance, I think one of the principles there is to kind of manage recognition with grace.
Yes.
Just say more.
Yeah. So for example, I love gracious people, man, and sometimes they are just misunderstood. and we're living in times when self-promotion is important, and it is. And one of my favorite ways of thinking about this is every human being for their own career needs visibility.
Yes.
Right? You want the people in the organization to know that you've done good stuff. Because it matters for your career progression. But what is also interesting is that these same people also want you to set up other people for success. Because you cannot really sustain performance based on one individual. I love studies, so maybe I'll quote this one. There's this beautiful study that's, I can't remember what it's called, but what they did, they went into basketball teams in the US, and they wanted to see what happens after a star performer either gets injured or they leave. So if you have really, really powerful, the Michael Jordans of the world and all those star performers, when they leave, something interesting happens. Of course, performance dips. But teams generally then adjusts after a while, and then most of the time, the performance after that small dip becomes better than before the star performer left. So it really means we can really eventually, yes, if you're a star performer and we're going to suffer without you, and we will. But after a little bit of adjustment, these other people will be able to carry. So just be nice, be gracious, man. We know we depend on you. We know you're doing 70% of the sales, but just play nicely with other team members. Because if you push people too much, they're going to let you go, and you will get that satisfaction of a performance dip if that's what you wanted.
Sure.
But eventually teams recalibrate and they perform again.
Right. On this one, maybe we touch lesson 12, which is take initiative without stepping on toes.
Oof. So initiative without stepping on toes is the idea that every leader wants someone who takes initiative.
Yes.
In fact, if you don't take initiative, man, please just try your best. In fact, I remember I was watching one of your podcast episode with Mushambi, and Mushambi said he believes that just if you have to make a mistake, make it and apologize later or something like that. Which is not gonna work in all contexts, but people would rather a person who shows initiative and make mistakes than someone who says, you didn't tell me whether we should have given the guests water. We were waiting for you. That's just like, So the idea there is to always have conversation about, hey boss, what do you want? Where are my guardrails?
Sure.
You want initiatives. Which part would you like me to leave it with you?
Sure.
So as opposed to, I was waiting for you to tell me. I don't think any leader wants that. I think that's draining. I think that's tiring. I think everybody wants initiative. Rather ask where you should, limit yourself than sitting and saying, I was waiting for you.
Wow. I mean, we can spend the whole day on this thing, on this conversation. Such beautiful content. So tell me about the book. Where do we find it? Where can people go to by building better workplaces?
Yeah, I appreciate it. We just had a proper launch at Exclusive Books recently. So you can get the book at most Exclusive Books. So please check it out. But you can also get a copy on Amazon and any of the online spaces. And for me, it's one of those books, the way I've written it, please just for your team, take it as a devotional. Say, put it there and say, day one, week one, let's just check how we live our values. Day two, let's check how we've created psychological safety. Day three, let's check how we have accountability as team members. And I think that for me is how I've imagined people using the book.
So it's practical and
stuff.
it's like you can have it as nuggets on a day-to-day basis. Lovely. So tell me about, where do people when they're sitting and they're having their meetings and go, I think let's call Siphiwe. When is that moment?
So for example, people generally call me at different aspects of their so mostly they have problems. Maybe they have apathy in the team. They just need an injection of energy in the team. So generally, I would be called at a conference to just talk about this stuff around creating better workplaces. And you can just go SiphiweMoyo.com and you can find all the things. On the consulting side, people who engage with our Paradigm People Solutions, it's when maybe they want a little bit of a journey work. The motivation or the talk was nice, but can you just help us sustain this? Because also people want sustainable stuff, and hence why I also wrote this book this way. Because if you just think about, you have 40 weeks, just take one lesson per week, do those few things, see the measure, and then we can come back later, do a staff engagement survey and see whether this thing actually works.
Excellent. Right, so we ask all our guests as a last question to give our listeners one challenge. Just one thing that they can consider doing from tomorrow morning.
That's very interesting. I think maybe the challenge that I would love is to think about creating a bit of a theme with your team. Call it Experimenting Tuesday. On that Tuesday, everyone in the team can just say, what have you tried? What would you like to try? If there were no rules, what would you do? If we didn't care who gets the credit, what would you try? On that day, they can also tell you as a leader what rule they think is inhibiting progress. And on that day, you have to do something about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Siphiwe Moyo. Thank you.